Hi, and welcome to One Tech World. My name is Rebecca Heywood, Tech Women 100 2024 winner, and today I'm going to be talking about reporting to the max, buzzwords that will keep your reports accurate and fresh. The aim of the session is to challenge the way we build our reports and the code we write, encouraging us to think beyond the scope of the ask and use a scalable and efficiency-gaining mindset so that our reports don't get stuck in the mud or left behind, and we as the report writers get that valuable time back because we made it different from the start. So, in the world of reporting, no report ever stays the same for the entirety of its existence. We always get asked to add more data, more tables, more visualizations, but these changes are opportunities to improve the mechanics behind the reports. And this is what I call revisit and revitalize. So, when we revisit a report due to a bug or a change request, we shouldn't just focus on the task at hand. Yes, do the job you need to do, and whilst you have lifted the hood and exposed what's underneath, take the time to take a step back and see the whole report for what it is. So you're looking out for large, overcomplicated code or formulas that don't mirror the way you currently do things. Back then, it was perfectly fine to write something in a particular way, but have you moved on, grown, learnt better ways of doing things, enhanced your skills? Or was this a legacy report that you now look after or maintain? And also look out for controls and validation improvements. Do you have methods for locking down or restricting certain elements that you didn't do before? Do you have new ways of cleansing data in a transformational process that you can lift and drop in? Any chance you get to amend an existing report is a chance to revitalize it. This isn't about fixing things that are broken. This is about continuously making sure that things you own or interact with are keeping pace. They need to be the best they can be, just like you are striving to be the best you can be. The more attention you put into revitalizing an existing report is an investment in time and effort well spent. An example I can give you is where a report was revitalized to improve the end user experience. And it wasn't a particularly big change. Sometimes the change you make might feel really small, but to a less codey or techie person, the change feels big and impressive and creates that wow factor that keeps them engaged and wanting to use your report. So I had started to introduce a refresh button into my reports. And when I came to work on an older report that didn't have a refresh button, I took the opportunity to build it in. And it was really quite simple. It was in Excel, and rather than using the form button or ActiveX button, I like to add in a shape as a button that can be coloured and styled really easily and quite dynamically. You can even code the shape to have a shadow that changes when someone presses it, giving the illusion of a 3D button being pressed. And the purpose of adding a refresh button is to try to automate some activities. So this particular report didn't have anything too complicated to automate. All I needed to do was write the code to refresh some power queries and then some pivot tables, which might feel like a waste of time because you have the refresh options in your toolbar for power queries and pivot tables. But adding a refresh button within the report brings a more modern look and feel that not only just mirrors the other reports, but it makes it look like it's doing something more complicated. So the user is instantly impressed and re-engaged. But I have also now built the foundations for coding to be built into that refresh button should that report grow in scope. So the next buzzwords I'd like to talk about is something we should do at the very beginning. When you build a report from start to finish, always keep in the back of your mind, what if? Sometimes it can be tempting to get to the finish as quickly as you can, especially if you already know what that looks like or the ask is really simple. For example, the head of groceries has asked you to pull down a list of items that were purchased yesterday. They don't need a chart or a graph, they just need a simple list with a few columns. So you go away, write the code, extract the results, and share it with the person who asked for the data. Now, here's the what if. What if that person asks for that list again? What if they asked for it tomorrow? What if they ask for it to cover a longer time period? Instead of one day, they want to see 1 week, or 1 month, or 1 year, or any date range. You would have to write that piece of code again and again. This is where reuse and recycle comes in. So, firstly, save your code as a template, either in a folder or within the tool that runs the code, and make sure your colleagues can access it too. Then consider each part of the code that could differ depending on who is asking for the data and what they might ask for, such as the date range or the list of items. When you have identified the parts that would drive the results of the data, set them up as variables. The date range might only be 1 day, but you should still create a start date variable and an end date variable so that the code is scalable and flexible enough to be reused for more than its original intended purpose. The person who made the original ask might be the head of groceries and will only ever want to know about grocery items. However, the head of electronics might come along and ask you for a list of items purchased during a sale week. But you now have that piece of code that you can pull out and reuse and recycle again and again with ease. And it's not just limited to like scenarios, it can be a base for more complicated things too. Another example is where the organisation has a process that might apply across the whole organisation, regardless of department, and the measures and status of that particular process aren't already coded in the system itself, such as an internet order and how far along a customer has progressed through an order. The system might have the timestamps for each stage, such as view basket time, proceed to checkout time, add delivery details time, add payment details time, order complete time, but the system may not auto-generate a data field to show which stage each customer reached by the end of their session, leaving this task to the data analyst to work out and code in. This will include things like the maximum customer stage, or the current customer stage, or the volumes per customer stage. These things tend to be typically calculated outside of the system, and so whether it's the head of groceries or head of electronics that wants to know how many items from their area were added to an online basket and to see what stages the customers reached, it's things like the stage per customer part that can be written once, but then reused and recycled many times. And that brings me to the end of my buzzwords for today. So, if you're looking for ways to keep your reports accurate and fresh, remember to revisit and revitalise and reuse and recycle. And if you've done a really good job, you can sit back and have some rest and relaxation. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good day.